You? How else could you know about hunting and my father? Why did you give up hunting and go so anti-gun? Mama smiled and wheeled over to the fridge and began preparing dinner. She was still quite capable. She only asked us to do the stuff that needed standing for more than a minute, like vacuuming or dusting up high. I started hunting to get closer to my dad, make him like me. Grandpa hunted? I interrupted, surprised. Oh yes, he was good too. She started grilling cheese sandwiches. She always managed to turn them at the perfect time. The only problem was, I was better. Mama turned and smiled at me. So he gave it up. My mother told me not to worry about it. That was just his way. So when he started hating guns, I started hating guns. Turns out all I needed to do to get him to like me was have a child. Mom flipped over the sandwich and smiled at me again. Correction, you needed me. What's not to love about me? I smiled and got up to get the chips, juice, and tomato soup. Zeke whined from outside. How long has he been out there? My mother looked at me guiltily. A few hours. I meant to let him in. I just didn't have the energy. I understand. I didn't. Mama never seemed to have any energy since she got sick. She was older when I was born, but she was fit. She would give me horsey rides and underdogs. Now she couldn't get out of bed to let the dog in? I hesitated before scratching him behind the ears. I was relieved to discover he was safe. There was a living being that was safe. The doorbell unexpectedly rang. Since I was already near the door, I answered. Allie, hi. Before I could react, a well-kept woman grabbed me in a one-armed hug, the other arm balancing a casserole. She just released a toddler from that arm. A swarm of images came flashing through my head. I didn't want to be rude, so I hugged her back, drawing out the montage. A man chased her with a knife. She hid in a trailer, shaking, hiding this toddler. She gave birth early. A child was in the NICU. It lived. She wept tears of joy. I released her and reached out for Zeke, shaking somewhat visibly. I had to figure out how to control this. Hi, Claire. So good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking care of Mama. I held on to Zeke as if he were a literal lifesaver, breathing somewhat harder than normal. Are you okay? You seem shaken. Claire looked sincerely worried about me. I was about to answer, try to brush it off, when her toddler hugged my legs. Another slew of images. I tried to sit on the floor, but I ended up falling. A sea of babies in the NICU, the man with the knife looking at her, crying, playing with her oxygen, leaving, noises that scared her. A team of nurses rushed in, playing with her tubes. Where's Mommy? Mommy's here, crying so hard she can't breathe. Tubes on the girl's face again. An image of Mommy with the knife, the man on the ground, covered in red stuff. I stood up so fast I knocked Zoe over. She began to cry. I'm sorry. I started getting these flash headaches today that get worse with touch. I apologize. I'd hug you and play with Zoe, but I think I need to go lie down. I'm sorry. Thank you. I ran out the door before Claire could touch me again. Claire, the sweet neighbor who brought my mother casseroles ever since she moved in next door, who took care of me when I was little. I knew she'd struggled with infertility, but in an abusive relationship. I knew her husband had been murdered, and she'd been on the forefront of the team looking for the suspect. They hadn't found the murder weapon yet. It had been nearly 3 years. I knew her baby was nonverbal, but Claire, a killer? Tom trying to kill Zoe? It didn't add up. Claire and Tom had been married nearly 10 years. I was their flower girl. They'd practically raised me. They were like the cool aunt and uncle who could do things my old single mom couldn't, who I stayed with when Mama had to take care of Dad's property that also wasn't hers, or dissect his will from his extended family when she went out with her sisters, or on the occasional date. I remember how happy Claire and Tom were when she got pregnant, how scared they were when Zoe had an irregular heartbeat. Maybe I saw it wrong. Maybe it wasn't Tom. I closed my eyes and recalled the image with the man with the knife. No, it was Tom. Tom in the NICU, fiddling with Zoe's oxygen. It was Tom, Dad. I wondered if Claire knew he tried to kill Zoe. Did the NICU have cameras? What was I going to do with this information? How could I say it? To who? Who would believe me? Did I want them to? A million questions went through my head as I stared at my forgotten textbooks. School suddenly seemed so unimportant. Everything I cared about seemed so trivial. My phone rang, my mother's ringtone. Hello, I whispered, almost crying. Claire finally left. Usually I enjoy her visits, but I was worried about you. So was she. You okay? I could hear the fear in my mother's voice. It was almost palpable. What did you see? Nothing. Everything, I thought quickly. Her and Tom's wedding, his funeral, Zoe's NICU unit, my mother gasped. You saw Zoe's memories too? Maybe you can help her talk, she said excitedly. Yeah, maybe. I managed to croak out. I knew I couldn't tell her. I was about to invent an excuse to get off the phone. Do you think Zoe knows who killed Tom? She was with him when Claire found him. Oh, I don't know how we tell Claire about your gift, but that poor woman deserves justice for her husband. My head was swimming. I could never, ever tell her. I wished I hadn't told her about it at all. I should have chanced Sam and Charlie with their scoffing and preaching. Yeah, I heard myself say. She deserves justice. I pushed the button and shakily put the phone on the nightstand. Then I threw up, right over the edge of my bed. I sat there, panting and massaging my temples for what seemed like hours. When the smell got to me, I finally stood up, cleaned the mess, and took another shower and climbed into bed. I realized I hadn't actually eaten the cheese sandwiches or the casserole for dinner, nor had I eaten lunch, and now I just vomited my breakfast. It's okay. Food wasn't important anymore either.